When you work on a research paper, and whether that's for work or for school, chances are you will want to quote another author at some point, and to give that author credit for their ideas and their words, you'll want to add in a footnote. And in Google Docs, that's very easy to do. Hi, I'm Terry, one of the Consumer Technology Specialists for Mid-Continent Public Library, and let's look at Google Docs and footnotes, and we'll also throw in a little bit of an idea about endnotes and how you might be able to add those in as well. As we look at this example document today, it's just kind of the beginnings of a research paper. It has some very long paragraphs, it has some shorter paragraphs, and it takes up about a page and a half so far. Let's say that this last sentence in this second paragraph basically is what the quote is. So what we will do is add in quotes on either side of that sentence and then add in a footnote. So I'll click here, put in my quote, I put in the other quote, and then I'm going to go to Insert, and in this first section, the last choice is footnote. Now notice that you could also use the keyboard shortcut of Control, Alt, and F to do the same thing, just holding all three of those keyboard keys down together. But we're just going to click on footnote. And when we do, we're immediately taken down to the bottom of the first page. And let me scroll just a little bit here, where we have the superscript 1, notice how tiny that is, and then a blinking insertion point ready for us to put in our information. There are many authorities on how to write footnotes and endnotes, different styles authorities, and so you will need to go with the one that at school your teacher may tell you which one to use, or if you work for a company, then chances are they have a standard style that they will expect you to use and probably a handbook to go with that. But what we're going to do is go with sort of a basic style that a lot of people do use, and let me just kind of put that in here where we can see that it has the author's name, the title of the book, the city that it was published in, and actually publication information, so we have the publisher and the date that it was published, and then the page that the quote came from. And that's sort of a standard idea. We also have here a proper 2-inch horizontal line that separates the text from the footnote. We'll notice also that when I click in the text, we have as a basis for our text Arial 11 font. When I click in the footnote, that comes down to Arial and 9. So the footnote may have a different size of text. Now let's scroll back up the page so that we can find that original text and where the footnote index number has been added at the end of that last sentence in the second paragraph. And there it is. It is also superscript in a smaller font. So that is just a really easy way to add in footnotes if you decide you want to do that. Let's go ahead and scroll down a little bit more and add in another quote. Let's say just the third paragraph here, and again I'm going to put quotes at the end of that last sentence, and this time it should be footnote number 2. So we will go to Insert up in the menu bar and then down to Footnote, again that last choice in the first section. And when we say footnote, it automatically moves some of that text down to the second page now to make room for this footnote, and we have footnote number 2. And I'm going to again use a possible way to write footnotes once the first reference has been made. In this case, just the author, a very short reference to the name of the title, and then the page number. Going back up on the page, we can again see that it's very easy to tell that footnote 2 with that superscript text is right there, just to the right of the last quote for that sentence. And let's add a third quote, and we're going to go to this last sentence in the next to the last paragraph and put in our quotes. And then we're going to go to Insert, and down at the bottom of that first section, Footnote. And it adds in the superscript 3, and then at the bottom of the page we have the superscript 3. And because we have used the same reference twice before, we can now, at least with some authorities, use something that is called IBID and put that in, which simply means it is still the same book, the same author, etc., but just maybe a different page number. And in this case, 3 footnotes have fit on this page. Now, sometimes, if the footnote is a full footnote and it takes 2 or 3 lines maybe to put everything in that is needed, that footnote may go to the next page. So a fix for that might be to change your bottom margin so that you can still get everything in. But just kind of a warning there. But footnotes with Google Docs are extremely easy to do. Depending on the guidelines for where you work or where you go to school, it could be that your research paper will be required to have endnotes instead. And unlike Word, which does allow for endnotes, Google Docs does not. Now, there are a couple things that you can do. One is you can go to Extensions, which is way over here at the far right of the menu bar. Click on that. Then go to Add-ons, and then to the right of that, get Add-ons. And you can click where it says Search Apps, and what we would want to search for is endnotes. And as I type end, it shows me that there is an endnote generator. We could click on that. It looks like it's got kind of an average rating, but it would quickly generate endnotes from footnotes. So you would still need to start with footnotes and then sort of magically transform them into endnotes. One of the things about docs that may trick you into thinking that you can kind of trick it into creating endnotes is going to a pageless view. So let's look at that for a second. We can go to File and then all the way down to Page Setup. And right now we have a Pages setup. So when I click OK and I scroll down, I can see definitely that my footnote here is at the bottom of page 1, and then I have other pieces of the document on page 2. If I go to File and down to Page Setup, and in Page Setup go to the right to Pageless, and then click OK, well, it just looks like, watch as I scroll down, I don't see a footnote in the middle here, do I? And it's at the very end. And so it looks like if you could print this view, that you could have an endnote very painlessly. However, from here, even if I go to File and Print, when I look at the print out of this document, look what happens. That footnote is right back at the bottom of page 1, and there is no endnote at the bottom of page 2. So that leaves you with manually adding in an endnote at the end. And you can certainly do that. My suggestion, first of all, is that you go back to File, Page Setup, and make sure you're on the Pages view so that that's not so confusing. and then go down to the end, and you would even actually add in a new page in all probability. But what you can do is simply manually type in information. Now, I'm going to suggest that you type in all of the book information first, because it's going to have a certain text and formatting to it. And if it just takes the default here, you would even then want to change it so that it's perhaps that Arial 9 as opposed to 11. Then and only then would I type in the number that will become my EndNote number so it matches that index, and then select the number by itself and nothing else. And then you could go to Format, Text, and make it superscript. If you try to make the superscript first, it's not as easy to change your font back to a regular font to put in the rest of your information. Now let's go ahead and press Control Enter so we have a new page, and then let's do a print preview. We'll go to File and Print. And so, of course, we did have that sample where we had the footnote at the bottom of 1, but coming down, we have page 2, and then at the bottom, here's the beginning of the endnotes that I've put in manually, that if nothing else, you can always do that. So, Google Docs, endnotes, and footnotes. To learn even more, be sure to go to mymcpl.org/online learning for such great resources as Universal Class, LinkedIn Learning, Learning Express Library, and Udemy Business. We also premiere new videos every Wednesday and Friday at 1 o'clock. If you miss a video premiere, you'll still be able to find it later when it's convenient for you. You can find us on Facebook at MCPL 360, and you can find us on YouTube by going to our MCPL MO channel.